Today we're going to be talking about the Thumper, the Nanite Systems grenade launcher available to all factions, and notably the only heavy weapon available to NSO. It is a grenade launcher. It functions exactly how you'd expect it to, and while it has some unique ammunition types and some unique rail slots, it is a grenade launcher at its core. It doesn't work well at range, it's not particularly good at 1v1ing, but if you need to just blow shit up, because if you want to farm infantry that's around a corner on a doorway, it's really, really good for this. The problem is, being a heavy weapon, you have to give up your LMG for it. However, if you have ASP and you take heavy weapon secondary, you can put it in your secondary slot, which is a very, very smart decision because then you don't have to give up your main source of killing other players. It's a good weapon, it's fun to use. Ultimately, it's not super important to have, though. It's one of those nice weapons to own. Stuff like the anti-material rifles, certain launchers. It's a nice weapon to have, but it's not needed. Like, if you find a situation where you can just hold mouse 1 on a doorway, it's great. But on the whole, unless you're doing heavy weapon assists, it's not like something you absolutely need to have. It's fun to have, it's nice to have, but don't go rushing on your way to buy it. So, 100 RPM, slow, 250 damage with 350 indirect, which is quite punchy, a terrible muzzle velocity of 40 meters a second, an identical long and short reload of 3.5 seconds, 6 rounds in your magazine, I guess, your rotating cylinder, a hip accuracy of 1 across the board in almost all states, and an aim accuracy of 0. It is well-rounded, it is really good at farming infantry, and it doesn't do a whole lot else. But it's fun to use. It's a lot of fun to use. In the way of attachments, you have 3 different rail options and 2 different ammunition options. For the rails, I usually run the automatic trigger, because it lets you hold the mouse down instead of having to click it constantly to fire. Sure, you take a 40% cone of fire hit, but if you're just holding mouse 1 at a door, it doesn't really matter. And 20% more fire rate, it's just nice to have. It's fun just to hold the mouse button and shoot at a doorway, especially if you pair it with a certain ammunition type. The lightweight materials are fine. They're basically a free slot filler. Sure, you have a 33% recoil penalty, but the gun fires so slow that it'll just reset in time anyway. And in exchange, you move a bit faster while hip firing, and you move significantly faster while aiming down sights. For example, without lightweight materials, you are slow. You are noticeably slow, and this will heavily impact your ability to peek corners. However, with the lightweight materials, you can peek corners much more effectively. Just be aware that, you know, you'll have to click every time, which I found so annoying that I stuck with the automatic trigger. The launch accelerator is also a relatively free pick because vertical recoil doesn't really matter on such a slow-firing single-shot weapon. But 25% velocity isn't huge. It's nice, especially because of how much the Thumper just sinks as soon as you try and hit anyone in range. It's like a mortar. And 20% better cone of fire is nice if you're going to be hip-firing it. But other than that, it doesn't really do a whole lot, especially for the common situations you'll be using the Thumper in, which is just holding it on a doorway. So for that reason, I would either go for the automatic trigger for the convenience so you can monkey mode, or the lightweight materials if you'd rather have the hip fire and aiming speed. So by default, you fire grenades. They're just explosive grenades. They do exactly what you'd expect them to do. But you get 2 different ammunition types that will notably change the color of the cylinder. It's cool. Disruptor ammunition is okay. I personally haven't gotten much use out of it, but it's alright. Basically, you lose 20% damage, but in exchange, it strips 20% of shield and ability energy. And you blow up small deployables easier. It's okay. It's really, really good if you're just constantly chipping at someone, but in my experience, it's too much of a general damage hit to be worth picking up. And while it does have its uses, it's just, when presented with the other option, incendiary, kind of begs the question why. Of course, incendiary weapons are always fun, and the ammunition's no different. So you do lose damage. You lose 200 blast damage on impact, which is rough. Like, it's really rough. But anyone who's within the splash area takes 150 damage over 3 seconds. Which means, if someone doesn't have medkits or is being healed, they'll burn around the corner and die, and it's really funny to watch people run away from your impact and just die, and you get so many funny kills just spamming the shit out of doorways with the automatic trigger that it's far and away my favorite way to play the Thumper. It just feels fun to use. So, of course, into live play, it is Hawson at 5:47 p.m. on a Monday evening on Connery, which is going to be really rough, but we make do. And, fortunately, Nascents will be a very, very good fight to showcase this weapon because it's Nascents. It's a lot of holding on doors and farming. So the Thumper shines pretty nicely here. And in general, it's just a fun weapon to use. However, yeah, the projectiles sink, and it takes some time getting used to. I haven't actually used the Thumper in a little bit, but it does take a lot of time to get used to, unfortunately. Once you get it down, it's very easy to use, and that's where the launch accelerator can really help. But it's also fun just to mortar enemies, especially if you have incendiary, because then you're just automatic incendiaring people, and it's fun. Let's face it, fire-based weaponry in games is fun, and it's no different here. Hello there, Infiltrator. And I can't hit him because I'm bad at the game. Unfortunate. Yeah, did I mention the Thumper isn't very good for 1v1s? You die in 1v1s a lot. Because it doesn't have the velocity. However, find the right situation with it. Tunnels, any spot where you can basically just hold mouse 1 on something on a corner and rack up damage is nice. Especially with Incendiary because, you know, even if you're not hitting for the maximum amount of blast damage, you're still going to do that 150 overtime tick. Someone else is... Oh, that's a grenade burner. I thought that was a Thumper as well. Damned effectors. So, yeah, I really like the Thumper. It absolutely has its problems. Do not get me wrong. It absolutely has its problems. It's clunky to use. The reload speed is slow no matter what you do. And despite how fun it is to use, it can just be rough in general because of its poor velocity. However, when it all comes together, my god, it comes together. It's just trying to get it to all come together that's hard. That's why I really, really recommend it as a secondary weapon if you can get the ASP perk on your heavy, because then you don't have to give up your light machine gun to be able to just thumper people. Of course, you can still get hit in the head with the decimator, but it's unfortunate. It is what it is. So yeah, we're just going to enjoy this farm for a little bit before calling it, as per usual. Fortunately, not getting a whole lot of great situations here. I was hoping we'd be a little bit more in the tunnel and more be like in the active farm. But that's how it goes sometimes. It's not a perfect tool for every engagement, and again, that's why having it as an ASP secondary is so nice, because then you don't have to worry about primarying it all the time. That way you only have to use it when a good situation arises. Sure, you're giving up your pistol, but it's a nice tool to have. And, for example, if you're on NSO, it's the only heavy weapon you have. So if you want to do heavy weapon assists, I sure hope you like the Thumper, because you're going to have to deal with it. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, as they say. I'm not spawning on the router because I don't know where it is. I don't know if it's up in a tree, and that's the problem. I feel like it's up in the tree, and I don't want to run into that problem. Oh, no, it's in the water. Okay. Some kind of indicator on those would be really, really nice. I don't think they'll ever do it, but it would be kind of cool to see, you know? Also, fun fact, this is my second time recording this video, because 4 minutes in, while I was talking about the Thumper itself, the game crashed. It's not crashed in a long-ass time. I don't know why it did, but it was annoying. So here we are, a second time. Which is a shame, especially if there were better fights at that time. Ooh, this is a good situation, because there's somebody right around that corner. We can just hold mouse 1 on them, and hopefully they will die. Also, we can just light up the max, and hopefully they will die. It's not a very good weapon for killing players, unfortunately. I know I keep saying it, but that's the truth of the matter. That's a max unit. That is supremely unfortunate. This is really just not a good fight.
Will you truly allow yourself to lose?
It's really just not a good fight. And, you know, that's what it is with a Thumper. Sometimes, you know, it's a weapon that you really only want to be pulling when you have a good situation to farm in. Because if you don't, you kind of get situations like this, where trying to use it in combat, you're going to get farmed. But if you're just farming, say, the Ascent Tunnel, or the Nascent's Tunnel, or just tunnels in general... Oh, that's my first kill so far. You can really rack up kills, especially with Incendiary, because, you know, people just take that DOT, and if people don't have medkits handy, they just die, and it's funny. It's funny just to watch people run around a corner and then suddenly have a kill show up at the bottom of your screen. Of course, it doesn't happen all too often, but it's funny when it happens, you know? The other problem with the Thumper that I should mention also as well nowadays is, now that Nanowave isn't as good as it used to be, a lot of people are running flak now, which has severely hit the Thumper's effectiveness. Of course, you can still hold on doorways, and it will still work just fine, but it's something to be aware of that flak does counter the Thumper extremely hard, and it's just something you're going to have to deal with, where you might just not kill some players that you would have killed otherwise. And unfortunate. Well, given that I'm not playing very well, and given that this fight is not very good, I'm going to call it here. So, in recap, the Thumper, it's a fun weapon to use, but it's limited in its use. It's a situational tool to farm doorways and heavy weapon assists, and it's really, really mediocre at just about everything else. I would probably wait until you have ASP heavy weapon secondary to use it, because then you don't have to give up your light machine gun for the thing. But it is still fun to use. It's just a nice weapon to have, and if you just want to, you know, immerse yourself in grenade launchering with incendiary ammo, and burning the shit out of some NC in Hassan, it's a good tool for that. So, thank you all very much, and I will see you all another time. Bye.